Hi, I'm Lauren. I have a Sports Through the Line agency, which basically in short says we do the commercial side of sport. So we look after sporting brands, team, athletes and tournaments. So firstly, I grew up in a sporting kind of family. My dad played Morocco Swallows during apartheid. So that was very, very interesting and different. So yeah, I just always had a love for it coming from a sporting family. So every weekend we would spend, on the side of a soccer field. But in those days, obviously very different as well. So my dad married a British woman, so she came here when she was 17. So that made it a bit different and probably a bit easier. So, with coming from the UK and, that whole apartheid kind of thing, for her it was nothing to go into, townships and do games on Thursdays and weekends. So, yeah, that was kind of where my love for sport started. And I think that's also why where I am today, I'm very much invested in, the outreach projects and community stuff across all sporting codes. So soccer was obviously where it started, but love for rugby is what hit me later on. But I had a job for Canterbury, who was the Springbok sponsor at the time, and it was their last year of sponsoring the box, and we were doing their lifestyle side of things, and they were like, oh, can you come up with a campaign, for the Springboks? We've got all these jerseys, and it's our last year. And so we created what was called the Shirtless campaign, where we got people to pledge to go shirtless on a Friday until the new jersey was revealed. And it was really interesting because we had people like Nick Mallet and Jeannie D and Yanez, I'm trying to think, Leon Schuster and the surfing girl, Roxy Lowe, and all of them. So it was just an awesome campaign that just got such massive virality. And so when we did the jersey reveal at the castle in Cape Town, I think it was 2013, the next day it was such a success. Sorry phoned and was like, well, don't you want to come and work on the box? And it was like, what? And so from there I got onto the plane, had to pack my bag, and I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I went to Exclusive Books, and I went inside and I was like, I need a rugby book. And so there was a lady called Liz McGregor who wrote a book called The Springbok Factory, and it was there like right in front of me as I walked in. And I got this book and I started reading it on the plane, and basically the rest is history. So I was very fortunate to work with the Springboks. I worked on Currie Cup, I worked on the Celsi Nelson Mandela Bay Sevens, Cape Town Sevens, and yeah, I suppose, like they say, there was a new chapter forced in it. I used to just do PR within hospitality and stuff, and yeah, I haven't gone back to that. Still a love of sport, and it's just grown and grown and grown. I think I was very fortunate. I had a dad who, I think, God bless his soul, needed a son. So, he treated me very much like, you can have whatever you want. Just apply yourself and be hard and never let anybody tell you you can't do it. And I suppose the really interesting thing of getting involved in the rugby space has been so awesome, because it really challenged me and it brought in everything that my dad used to say. It's like, you can do it. It doesn't matter, And so through that, I suppose I've always loved a challenge. If something comes too easy, then I kind of lose interest. So it was so interesting, and the journey. And I think more importantly, if it wasn't for the people that I met, if it wasn't for the players, and I mean that not as these icons on pedestals, these real people, and what they go through as athletes, and being part of that and seeing a whole nother side that people don't get to see, has been really exciting. I think my highlight though has been doing all these community outreach projects. We used to take the box into areas, so a week before a test we had a whole schedule, and we would go into a hospital, would be one of them, we'd go into a primary school, and the narrative was always around, if I can do it, so can you, and apply yourself. And I think that was where it changed for me, is where you can see these faces and see that you've inspired someone, and taking a bunch of kids into a stadium for the first time, watching them at halftime play on the field, knowing that you were part of that, is really what created that real love. And for me, it's not work anymore. It's an absolute pleasure to be part of those kind of things and changing lives and watching, these athletes. And I can say that because I also work on school level. So there's players I've now watched through their whole journey. I've worked with them on Premier Interschools, I've worked with them on Varsity Cup, and now they box. Like, that is so super cool to watch. And it's an absolute honor to be able to work in this space, or like I kind of say, play in that space. I think storytelling is such an amazing opportunity to create change and to open people's eyes, and I've got a whole thing of, what does Wikipedia not tell you? What does Wikipedia not teach you? But saying that the journey was easy, it wasn't. You know, to see administrators that go in and go, oh, a woman is going to come in here and she's English. You know, what does she know? So, you know, there were a lot of journeys to go through, and hurdles and different things. But for me, again, it was a challenge. So I'll never forget sitting in one of the university's administrator's office and say, listen, we need to discuss this. And he was like, I'm not going to do this. And it must have been, I went in every day for 3 days. And eventually I said to him, you do know I'm not going to leave until you see me. And I had to prove myself. And to this day, he's probably one of the closest people that I've dealt with, and when I have any projects I've got or hiccups, I'll pick up the phone and I'll say, what do you think of this? And you're like, how's that journey? And that's been special. So it hasn't been easy, but I think if you want to be a woman in this space, you've got to also know that you need to show no threat, but you also need to go in on the bottom and learn and see what they need to be communicated. And if you can help them with their messaging, they're going to help you going forward. So it is tough, and it's probably something that shouldn't have to happen, but it's also been a great one, and I think all have learned. And there's a lot of women that I work with that are amazing, and we've gone through the same things, and it's changing now, and you really can see it, which again, to be part of that journey and that process has been awesome. I think the most important thing would be to go in and learn. Go into whichever sector or any code or any age group, go in and learn. Go and find out what they need. Go and find out their struggles, and sit back and come up with solutions. Don't go in boisterous. Don't go in to own your place and your position. Go in from an aspect of, I want to learn, help me. Go in with those tools, create those properties, and know that you don't have to prove yourself. Your work will do that. You know, really just go into it and say, I'm here, I'm non-threatening, I want to be part of this, let's be team. Education, education, and education. And I think the difference is now is that we've seen, especially from a COVID perspective and schools and universities, there is so much out there that we can start learning. We can upskill ourselves by doing small courses. We can upskill ourselves by giving time. And I firmly believe in internships. I firmly believe in job shadowing. And I think if the youth of today can see that as an opportunity to go in and learn from the best and not think you know everything, but knowing that education never stops once you've got a degree, that you've got to keep on it, you've got to up your game, you've got to learn what is being done here across codes, you've got to learn what's being done overseas. So take that time to really empower yourself by educating yourself. Oh, jeepers, yes. So I'm not going to go sport on this one. I was lucky before I got into sport that I worked with Prime Media Broadcasting, and I worked on the marketing side of the radio stations. And I got to work with a lady called Terry Fulkvan, who was strides ahead. She was hard, she was tough, but she was fair. And I was very fortunate that she took me under her reins and she'd be like, Lauren, okay, this, that. But I think we were very similar go-getters. And so for me, she was such an inspiration to be running 4 massive radio stations. She was also part of the whole lead essay concept. She was in part of Prime Talent, which was getting endorsement sectors for artists and for, you know, the presenters. She did presenter searches as well. So I think what she did for the face of radio, and I'm trying to think when I was there from 2008 onwards, you know, she just really was ahead of her time. And she gave time to everyone. So I'm not going to lie, partly scary, but what an inspiration, and someone who never took no. She didn't accept no. She was like, let's find a way. Let's skirt around it. Everything is possible.